It is a solo monkey. No Dusty today. Jeff Frost behind the glass. We are 1 day removed from the NBA draft. First round, we will kick off here during our show in a little less than an hour now, starting round number 2 in the NBA draft. But we're going to sports pretty hard today because it's a 2-day holiday for your boy. There's no doubt about that. We'll dive into the Denny Avdija trade. We will dive into Donovan Clingan popping up and falling at number 7. Surprise picks across the NBA draft in how Ron Holland, Dalton Knecht, Zach Edey, a whole host of surprises up and down the first round, trades, lack of trades, and the interesting amount of things that could come out of here in the second round. Jeff Rust, how you doing today, good sir?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby?
Yeah, I had to come in there and fix the old computer to monitors.
I forgot
they
we were
were
on the
blocking
cameras.
your lovely mug.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of. I think it's probably a good thing. I think we could all make that argument that me not being on camera is a good thing.
Well, it kind of defeats the purpose of the streaming.
Yeah, well, who needs all that pivot to video stuff, right? We're a radio medium. No,
correct. Yeah, we're not going on like Colin.
Yeah,
a TV show that happens to be on radio.
All in all, I've had a million people ask what I thought of last night. We'll get into that. How the trade came together. I have a little bit of background on that, what the Blazers did and how they kind of shaped their future. And then we have Joe Cronin addressing the media last night. We did it this way. The Blazers asked, kindly how we'd like to do the press availability. And instead of doing it in 2 days, we did it in 1, and then we'll come back Saturday for media availability when they introduce said players. For those that don't know, the Denny Avdija trade has not been legally made official, so the Blazers front office cannot talk about it yet. We can talk about it off the record,
right?
But we cannot talk about it on the record yet. So that is kind of shaping some of the discussions around things.
And it becomes official, what? I believe I saw the 6th?
Yeah, I think they're going to post-date it into the new league years when free agency opens up. So there's a couple different things that they can go take a look at. What's interesting is, I don't know if we'll have time for it today, but the Mikal Bridges trade has also not been made official, and there's a weird little hiccup because of a point of contention in the new CBA that is causing the money to currently not work, and the Knicks might have to include somebody like a Miles McBride, Deuce McBride, who is a higher value player. Then they probably want to just be like, hey, we need to get rid of this to make this deal work, but they might end up having to because that's where things are because the money has to work. That's super nerdy, particularly for this time of the show. We will be joined by Sean Hyken at 12:30. Get his thoughts and views on what transpired yesterday and what to expect today. Overall, Jeff, what was your feeling of the night? Did you take in the draft festivities? Did you partake at all?
I did some. I was keeping an eye on it while we were fixing dinner. I remember I was excited for the draft because there was just so many unknowns. You know what I mean? We didn't know what was coming, who they were going to be winding up with. Would Clingan fall down to number 7 to him? And then on my way home, I remember hearing it come across on primetime, the Brogdon trade. And so I heard Brogdon and number 14, and I was like, ooh, this could be kind of nice. And then I heard the 2029 first rounder. I was like, oh. And when it comes to, the cellar-dwelling teams of the East, you might call me a fringe fan.
Yeah, you're not diving into the Washington Wizards tape.
Yeah, so I'd never heard of Denny Avdija, to be completely honest with you. So I kind of went, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It just, at that point, it felt like a lot. And I think it also just kind of, it sucked a little bit of the wind out of the sails for my excitement level of the draft.
Yeah, I did the exact opposite.
Uh-huh.
I went from 6 to noon real quick.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh, Denny Avdija." It was super funny that the basketball hipsters immediately were like, "Ooh, Denny Avdija," and then you had the just cursory
the guys like
fans.
me.
Yeah, we're like, "Oh,
yeah."
And it was like you could tell who the true sickos are right
yeah.
away.
And then
the
I started
sickos,
hearing,
we're like rejoicing in the streets, like that's a really good player.
And then I started hearing the leap that he made in his 4th year over his previous seasons, and
Yep.
what I think he came in 6th in most improved player voting. So look, it's at a position of need, and he can do things on the floor that outside of being a position of need, he can do things on the floor that they need basically at any position.
How did you like the draft presentation last night? Because they did, even though it was shorter because there's no second round because it's today, it was a different style presentation, and they were definitely NFL drafting it in that the pick is in and like the dais is still talking. Instead of like, I remember in the past with like Mel Kiper be like in the middle of something and whoever the host was at the desk during the NFL draft would be like, all right, Mel. And then they would like cut to the commissioner.
Yes.
Last night and in the NFL too, they just let them talk and talk and talk. And it's almost like the broadcast team is giving the direction to the commissioner. Like, okay, you can do the pick now.
Right. Well, hey, maybe it is. Maybe.
Do you get that feeling that's kind of happening now?
It could be, maybe, because with the increased money that's coming in the new deals, they could be like, hey, look, let us drive this train a little bit here.
I'll ask you this: are you pro, anti, or ambivalent on spoilers?
I guess I'll say ambivalent, but leaning more toward
grumpy spoilers.
Anti.
There it is. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew you'd be on that side of things. Look, I get it. So Sprague and I were doing the live stream yesterday when we got back after the Avdija trade happened, and we got into the draft pretty quickly. And there's 1,000 people literally in the YouTube live stream. And I got a lot of, not a lot of, there's the contingent of the anti-spoilers. Like,
yes,
can you stop spoiling? And I'm like, no.
I think I saw some of that come through the show, the Vancouver Ford line text line yesterday during the show.
I'm like,
are you guys going to spoil the picks again?
It's like, yeah, we are. Because that's what happens. Like, we're breaking news. That's if somebody has it,
right,
we're going to run with the goods.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's understandable. Absolutely.
Like if you like, I do. If you are sitting there like, I want to enjoy this in my home and spoiler free, do that. Take the phone, put it face down.
Yeah, and just
Close
keep it on ABC
and just be in the moment. Like if you want to experience that moment, then do that. I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Absolutely cool with that. I get it because it is cool to be in that moment and find out right then and there. I'm gonna have to apologize right now. I was talking yesterday for like 7 hours, so my voice is going to cut in and out.
Yeah, it's a great day for you to be solo in there.
Yeah, totally. I did not that did not go through my head thinking about this today. I was like, oh no, this is a problem. So apologies for that. But I am not somebody who's sitting there looking at this and going, how dare you spoil this? I did think it was funny that Shams broke, I think, the first 4 and Woj sat there and he basically, it sounds like, I shouldn't say he basically, it very much, it looks like that he went to the ESPN news directors and said, I don't care what our deal is with the NBA. I'm going to get in on this.
I'm going to scoop Shams.
Yeah, I'm not going to let him get all of these.
Yeah.
Because there's been a Cold War brewing between those two.
I'm not sure you can call it cold.
I mean, no nukes have been fired, but it's certainly getting there. Hey, remember we killed each other's spies. Like there was loss of life.
Well, and they each have their supporters too.
Yes. But as much as Shams kind of took some of the thunder out of Woj with the JJ Redick stuff, Woj dog walked Shams for a couple of days, and it was like, oh, buddy, this is getting, and that was Shams because he's not an ESPN employee, was able to kind of come back and do that. So, all right, speaking of coming back and do that, we will come back in segment number deuce and dive into first the Denny Avdija trade. We'll go in the sequential order of how this happened, and then take a look at the Blazers and how they got to drafting Donovan Clingan, their number 7 overall pick, and we'll follow that up at 12:30 by bringing in Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
NBA draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Donovan Clingan from the University of Connecticut.
Just like the fajita, I write what I live. The non-spoiler edition, as Adam Silver stepped to the podium to announce Donovan Clingan was the newest Portland Trailblazer after a kind of a wild 15-minute period leading up to the 7th pick. But even before that, about an hour before the draft, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reported that the Portland Trailblazers and the Washington Wizards had agreed on a deal in principle that would send Malcolm Brogdon, the 2024 number 14 overall pick, a 2029 first-round pick, the second most viable or valuable in that draft, or in that draft that the Trailblazers currently own, which is one of 3.
Yes.
And then 2 second-round picks for Wizards wing Denny Avdija, a 23-year-old player who finished last season averaging 15, 7, and 4, shooting 50, 37, 74, while having arguably the best non-rookie scale value contract in the entire NBA. So let's walk through why that's important and what they did and how that all works out. And first of all, let me just say this. I've had people like, I thought you said you really liked Cody Williams in the draft, and they took Donovan Clingan. Why aren't you bothered? Because they essentially said, we have Cody Williams at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did here. Before the draft, they addressed the wing need that I wanted them to go address, and it wasn't well, let's see if Cody Williams can be good. Denny Avdija is legitimately good right now, Jeff. That's the thing. It's not like he's not good in principle. He's gotten better every single year.
Yes.
And it's the thing is like, just because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with him because he played on a very, like, everybody wants to talk about how bad the Blazers are.
Yeah.
No. There's levels of suck there's rungs of hell. The Blazers aren't in the 14th rung of hell. The Wizards are in the 14th rung of hell. Like, that's what true hell looks like. And everybody's like, oh, his stats are empty. I'm like, do you know how hard it is to be effective on a team that bad and that dysfunctional?
Yeah. Especially once Jordan Poole came in.
Sweet sassafras. Like, what? I don't understand it. Please make my brain stop hurting. But as it pertains to Denny Avdija is 6'9". Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Blazers like players that are 6'9"?
Yes.
Do they need more of those?
Yes.
Okay. So if the Blazers traded a package to go get a player that is under 25, which check the box. He has plus size, checks the box.
Mm-hmm.
Plus athlete, checks the box. Plus defender, checks the box. Can shoot, checks the box. Oh, also, he has playmaking. The thing that I have said over and over and over again, shooting can be taught. It's probably the easiest thing to teach when you're talking about skill development. The thing that is almost not teachable at all, that is intrinsic, that is you either have it or you don't, is feel and playmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And playmaking with size is the rarest commodity in the NBA to me. Last season, you take a look at how effective he was for forwards. Tell me if this is a good number, Jeff. Among all forwards in the NBA last year, according to Cleaning Glass, he was in the 89th percentile.
That tends to be pretty good.
In assist rate.
Mm-hmm.
89th percentile.
Yes.
So you're getting a guy that fits exactly what you want on your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
His contract is an absolute home run. For those who don't know, his contract is declining in value.
Yes.
So this year is at its highest value. It goes down as the cap goes up.
Right. So now he's got 4 years left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is this year the first year on that deal?
First year of that deal.
Okay.
So he is under control for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be 27 going into
and with the
field.
cap going up, that's a very friendly number.
It allows them to do a lot.
Yes.
Think about this. In his 4th year of his deal, he's going to make $11.5 million, or 300% less than Jeremy Grant.
Yeah. I mean, what do we figure the mid-level will probably be more than that by then?
Oh, it already is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine mid-level at that point in time is around $16 million.
So that's a what, as Eddie Murphy would have said, what a bargain.
It's his contract is insane, and it's not just about his contract; it's about his contract and his production.
Yeah,
like that's the thing. So you take a look at as far as where he rates as a creator with his size plus creator. his points per shot attempt, after struggling with his three ball the first couple years in the league, he started knocking down threes, and all of a sudden his points per shot attempt got him up to the 72nd percentile. You take a look at, and everybody wants to kill Jeremy Grant for rebounding. Rightfully so. He's not a great rebounder.
Yeah.
Among all forwards, here is where Deni Avdija has rated in defensive rebounding percentage. 94th, 90th, 97th, and 93rd percentile among defensive rebounding forwards.
Not too shabby.
That is a plus rebounding forward.
Yes.
So, is he a great, offensive rebounding forward? Not really. He's about average. 57th, 48th, and 60th. So it's again, you kind of average that out. He's slightly above average at minimum. He's not a real high stocks guy, blocks and steals, but he's a good positional defender and disruptor. The big thing about him is his shooting. The change this past year was he became a god from the corners. After shooting roughly 33-ish% through his career from the corners, he shot 48% from three this year.
Not too shabby.
Which elevated his three-point percentage a truckload.
Okay. Well, and what's nice to see is that through his 4 years, as his usage increased, he just got better.
Yeah, he's gotten better every year.
And but in terms of like shooting percentage and everything.
Yeah, no, across the board. That's called what, Jeff?
Improvement.
Development.
Yes.
It's not always linear, but here's the crazy thing, guys. Young players get better.
Yeah. Crazy.
And I've seen people say,
as long as they have the right guys developing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even with the Wizards, like
that's a topic for perhaps later today.
But I'm saying, even with the Wizards, like you're talking about like development stuff, like if players will find it. Now, can you help accelerate it with the right guys? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But I firmly believe that guys will find it if they have it.
Yeah.
Avdija is a guy that I've liked for a long time. Really liked him when he came out in the draft. I think I had him. I was going through my old tweets. I think I had him second in my Rookie of the Year poll going into that season. I was like, I really, 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 really liked him. Again, I have a type. 6'8" to 6'10", toolsy wings. Like, yeah, that's my jam.
With length.
Yeah, that's my jam. Like, go down the list. Jonathan Isaac, Jabari Smith Jr., Jeremy Grant, Deni Avdija. I think I already said Jonathan Isaac, Scotty Barnes. Like I like those kinds of players. Toolsy wings. This is the thing about this that makes a ton of sense to the Trailblazers. I've seen people say, well, I wanted somebody with more upside. He's younger than Dalton Connect.
Yeah.
He's not ancient. He's still got development left. He went 14-7 and basically 4 this past year. Okay. This is not to say that this is the case, but I just was like, I wonder what kind of players have averaged 14, 7, and 4 with his shooting splits over the last 15 years. It's all Hall of Famers. It's Kevin Durant. It's LeBron James. It's Al Horford. It's like, basically, I was looking 14, 7, and 4. I'm sorry, it's and over 6'7". Because finding those kind of talents with size, that's the important thing, right? Like you look at the Boston Celtics. Like that's what they have. They have skilled players with size.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that matters so much in how you go about this stuff. So that gets the we're getting trades. Well, we'll pocket that and we'll ask Hyken about that when he comes on. Actually, you know what? We'll dive into this right now, and then we'll talk about Don.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
Yeah. A trade has been announced right now. Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania are 3 seconds apart. The Sacramento Kings are trading Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vezenkov to the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are in turn sending Jalen McDaniels to the Kings in the deal. Davion Mitchell, one of the best nicknames in all of sports. Off night. Because if Davion Mitchell's guarding you, you're about to have an off night.
Yeah.
Sasha Vezenkov is the guy that they just got to come over from overseas. An older player, but an absolute hooper. I really love him. I like Jalen McDaniels a little bit. I think this is a money situation where they don't want to pay Davion Mitchell, and I think Jalen McDaniels might have. Let me take a look at his contract. I think Jalen McDaniels has a little bit less on a little bit more on his deal. This time of year, all contracts blend together because I swear to God, I've been staring at a cap sheet for the past 7 hours. No, this is his last year. Okay, so he has one more year left. Jalen McDaniels, obviously the brother of Jaden McDaniels. So many of the McDanieli out there.
Yeah.
It was rumored that the Kings have been looking to make some deals. That is for sure. They retained Malik Monk, and they tried to move out of 13. They ended up taking Devin Carter last night, who I think is a great player. But by taking Devin Carter, they basically said, "All right, there's our third guard. See you, Davion." That's essentially what's happened here. So for everybody's like, "Oh my God, the Blazers took another center. They're going to get no value." And it's like, guys, it's okay. Let's just chill. It does sound like that Time Lord Robert Williams could be on the move.
Right. Well, and back to the previous point. The whole point of trades a lot of the time is because you have a log jam at a certain position.
That's why trades happen.
Right, exactly. So why is it all of a sudden now it's like, oh, you're not going to get the value for it
You're
because people know that you need to move them.
It's like,
this is what happens in trades.
Yes.
Like all the time.
I've made a decision. I'm going to go with this path. Yeah, that's the normal thing.
It's not often that you ship out a position where you still need somebody, where you ship out a position of need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You trade somebody because you've got stuff there.
Or if you're in the case of the Wizards, you're like, all right, we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
I still don't like. I understand that they're trying to kind of clear the deck for Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly to play like 3, 4, 5. But giving up on Avdija, it definitely made a lot of teams go like, wait, Denny Avdija was available?
Right.
It's a little bit weird. When we come back, we'll have Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report, where we'll talk about the addition of Donovan Clingan. We'll ask him about Denny Avdija as well, and we'll get some thoughts about the second round as we get into the NBA draft, which is now just a little bit more than a half hour away here, round number 2. But here's the Big Kahuna Big Kahuna with a Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on the Fan, draft night started early for the Trailblazers yesterday. They traded number 14 and Malcolm Brogdon to the Wizards for small forward Denny Avdija. Washington will also receive a 2029 first-rounder and future second-round picks. Then, of course, with number 7, Portland selected 7'2" UConn center Donovan Clingan. Round 2 begins this afternoon at the top of the hour. Portland holding the 34th and 40th picks. You can also catch ESPN Radio's coverage over on 910 ESPN Portland. The Hawks reportedly trading forward A.J. Griffin to the Rockets for the 44th pick. Griffin was the number 16 pick in the 2022 draft. Celtics center Kristaps Porzingis had surgery to repair the rare left leg injury suffered in the NBA Finals. He's expected to miss 5 to 6 months, which puts it well into the start of next season. The Warriors reportedly sending number 52 pick to the Thunder for guard Lindy Waters. And we just heard it there. The Raptors sending Jalen McDaniels to the Kings for Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vezenkov. Suns guard Eric Gordon reportedly declining his $3.4 million player option and will become a free agent. And over in Major League Baseball, the Mariners off today as they head back home for a 6-game stand. They host the Twins for a 3-game weekend set. Seattle holding a 4.5-game lead over Houston in the AL West. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Your favorite fan shows are on YouTube. Mash the subscribe button and like us for live streaming video and 1080 The Fan on demand.
We're now joined by Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report. Sean, thanks for taking some time. What did you, now almost 24 hours removed, 18 hours, whatever, that math doesn't work in my brain right now.
How about the next day?
The next day removed from the NBA draft and a trade for Washington Wizards wing, Deni Avdija. What is your kind of high-level takeaway and then kind of work your way in?
From the overall night, are you saying? My kind of overall takeaway from the night is that the Blazers came into the draft with 2 lottery picks, and they came out of it with 2 good basketball players, and this team needs good basketball players right now. And so I think from all of that, you have to look at it as a pretty successful night, I would say.
With that in mind, there's been some thoughts that the Blazers may have overspent in getting Deni Avdija. Where do you kind of fall on the acquisition of Avdija, his fit, him as a player, and then the actual cost that it ended up requiring to get the deal done?
Well, the cost is to me. I don't think the cost is anything crazy because you look at each of the individual pieces. They had to trade Malcolm Brogdon this summer anyway. There's no way that over the next 2 weeks Malcolm Brogdon was going to come out of it still a member of the Portland Trail Blazers. So they had to get that part of it done. They gave up the 14th pick in a draft that everybody agrees is not that good. And the player that they got back in Deni Avdija is a better player than anybody they reasonably could have drafted at the 14th pick. And then they gave up a couple of second rounders, which you can get second rounders anytime, and the second most favorable out of their 3 first round picks that they have in the 2029 draft, which is 5 years from now. I think people see the number of picks on the page and don't look at what the picks actually are and think they gave up a ton for a guy. But Deni Avdija is a 6'9" two-way wing who's 23 years old and on a really team-friendly contract. So I think that's it. If they're when they've been looking to trade their veterans over the last year, whether it's Malcolm Brogdon or Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle, whoever, they've been more from what I've heard over the course of that time, they had been more in the business of trying to get players that fit what they're trying to do with Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe and the other young guys that they're building around, as opposed to just trying to stack up a number of draft picks. And I think for a guy that they were going to have to trade anyway with Malcolm Brogdon, I think this deal certainly accomplishes a lot of those goals.
On that particular line, the players over picks, it's a different path than a lot of other front offices have gone down. What do you think the risk reward kind of situation is as it pertains to that? Because it is different, obviously, than what Sam Presti has done in OKC and a couple of the teams have tried to do, but it also seems more reminiscent to not necessarily directly what Danny Ainge did in Boston by moving players or swapping things around to get the players that he wanted with specific picks in the draft. It's not quite exactly a straight line, but where do you kind of see in how that operation makes sense or doesn't?
Well, if you have, for right now, I mean, the Blazers are still kind of in the early stage of the rebuild where they don't have the guy who's the centerpiece of what they're trying to build, but they have a few guys, and Joe Cronin identified 2 of them last night in his post-draft press conference, and Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe, that they have 2 guys that they see as as of right now, the core pieces of what they're trying to build. And if you have a couple guys that you identify as those guys, you need to find players that you feel fit well around those guys. And if you feel that Deni Avdija fits well around those guys, and those guys are going to develop into the guys that you hope they're going to be better if they have good players around them that complement what they're trying to do, as opposed to if you're a team like, let's say, Washington, or the Washington, it seems like right now is trying to take the Oklahoma City a couple of years ago approach, or what Brooklyn, it seems like, is now trying to do with, after they traded Mikal Bridges for $1 million draft picks and got their own picks back and all of that. If, there's the approach of we're just going to not even put NBA players out on the floor and try to just be as bad as possible and just get picks in that way. That's a thing you can do. And then what the Blazers are trying to do is be like, because the thing is they're going to be bad this year. Their record is going to be similar to what their record was last year. They're not in danger of winning too many games because they traded for Denny Avdija. They had good NBA veterans on their team last year and they still lost 61 games. But I think they're hoping to be able to develop these guys, these like Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp. I guess now Donovan Clingan, who they took with the 7th pick last night, while also still in the short term losing enough games to get the picks that they need to get whether it's Cooper Flagg or whoever it is in the next couple of drafts. And I mean, it's two different approaches. I think the thing we've learned is that there's no one right or wrong way to do it. And then if these guys trust their talent evaluation, they've identified Denny Avdija as somebody that's undervalued and can grow with Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp like that, then yeah, go for it.
There's always a Mike Schmidt's tweet available to find out which one they value most. Speaking of the NBA draft and Donovan Clingan, what did you make of the Trailblazers were linked to upside swings and opportunity, and a lot of that was around the wings, and trading for Denny Avdija, at least in my opinion, solved that problem for them. That was instead of taking Cody Williams or had Tejan Salam been on the board at 7, they opted instead to go with Denny Avdija, which presented an opportunity at number 7 to take Donovan Clingan after multiple stops along the way through the first 6 about potential trade ups and opportunities there. Where do you kind of see Donovan Clingan fitting into all of this? The Blazers making a change in style at the center position, and whether or not he can be effective as that guy kind of going forward. Where the level of success for a drop big in the NBA has to be incredibly high if you're going to be a starting caliber big.
It is definitely a change in style. He doesn't have the mid-range shooting ability that DeAndre Ayton has, or the perimeter shooting ability that Duop Reith has. Is definitely more like offensively. He's definitely more of an old school type of center. But from a standpoint of, like I was saying earlier, needing good basketball players and, needing guys where what they're good at. The thing that Donovan Clingan was great at UConn was rim protection. The Blazers were the second worst rim defending team in the league last year behind Washington. And so that's a pretty clear hole that they had that he filled. And he's also the type of player where, like, the things that he was good at in college, which were setting screens, rebounding, protecting the rim, it's pretty easy to project that those things he's still going to be good at in the NBA.
And those opportunities are going to be there. The fit with him and DeAndre Ayton, as it stands right now, has some people anxious or frustrated or wondering how that's going to shake out, or if it devalues DeAndre Ayton. Right before you came on, we just had a trade where Davion Mitchell, obviously it's a lesser extent, was traded away to Toronto, and it's which is kind of exactly how things happen. A young player comes in Devin Carter that ends up kind of pushing him out, and then you make a trade. That's kind of how the NBA works. Do you see that as simply the same situation here with Donovan Clingan, DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, that this is just, it's kind of a next up mentality, and when you don't decide to move on or move forward with a guy, that you move that guy out?
Potentially. I don't think there's really any huge rush to do that with DeAndre Ayton, because I don't think you and I talk about this all the time, rookie, we talked about it last year with Scoot, with, how hard the learning curve is with rookie point guards, and how much he struggled, even though he has the long-term talent that, they're still very high on him. He was always going to kind of struggle his rookie year, and he did. With Donovan Clingan, unless you're literally like Victor Wembanyama, which is like a physical specimen that the world has never seen before, like, you're going to struggle as a rookie. I don't think Donovan Clingan is going to be good enough to start his rookie year. So it's, I think it's totally fine to keep, like, I would expect that the Blazers starting center on opening night is going to be DeAndre Ayton, and that's going to be the case going forward. But he's got 2 years left on his deal. If they, stick with him this year and then they decide to move him next summer when he's expiring, then you kind of hope that Donovan Clingan did enough his rookie season and at least showed that, he's ready to at least kind of step into more of that role. I'm definitely expecting Clingan not to start this year. Robert Williams, I think if you can get any kind of positive value for, just with his injury history, I think you kind of have to just make that move. But I'm not really, like, I know they love Robert Williams, and I've heard that his rehab is going well and he's expected to be good to go for training camp. Just because of his injury history, I feel like anything they get from him as far as actual on-floor contributions is kind of a bonus. So I'm really just looking at this as Klingon Ayton thing, and I don't think Klingon is going to be definitively better than DeAndre Ayton next year, and so I don't think there's anything to really worry about like who's going to start, because I think that's still DeAndre Ayton's job at this point.
Hey, can we get you to hold over and then hop on for the next segment? We'll talk about the second round and kind of what to expect over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we are joined by Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report. We'll hit a break real quick, come back, join up with Sean Highkin. We will talk about the second round potential for the Blazers to make at least one pick, probably with a two-way deal, and then likely moving another, and then what kind of happens next as the Blazers shape their roster for the 2025 season here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report was generous enough to stay on here with another segment as we're getting ready for the NBA draft, round number 2, day number 2. Sean, the second round is here, and the Portland Trailblazers have picks 34 and 40. What do you expect to kind of happen here, and what is different about this situation now, that with it not only being 2 days, but with the Blazers having 2 picks here and the value of those second-round picks in the new CBA?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see whether, first of all, whether they use both of those picks or not. And I would think just, as of right now, they have all 15 of their roster spots filled. Now, obviously, they could, trade away somebody. There's still a whole lot of the offseason left to go. But I think the most likely thing that would happen would be if somebody that they draft, whether they use one or both of those picks, is going to be somebody that they get to sign a 2-way contract. And that's kind of, I guess kind of one of the advantages. I personally don't love the 2-day format, and I don't know if a lot of people in the league do either, but I guess one of the advantages of it is that after the first round, teams have time to kind of reset and talk to different players' agents and say, hey, if we take this guy here, would he be open to signing a 2-way contract as opposed to holding out for a full, standard NBA contract like they've signed their last 2 second-round picks, Rayon Rupert and Jabari Walker too. So they'll have a good enough idea of, they're on the clock at 34. If there are 2 guys they like, one of those guys' agent said, yeah, he'll sign a 2-way. The other guy said, yeah, we don't want a 2-way contract. Then, that might be sort of a tiebreaker there. It's kind of how I would expect it to shake out.
Taking a look at kind of what's out there on the Intel world, the Portland Trailblazers obviously have all 3 of their 2-way spots currently open. It's a nice thing about them is they're a year-to-year situation. So Ibabaji, who's been there before, as much as the Blazers like him as a prospect, is not guaranteed that slot. But the Blazers can look at a variety of players, not only in the second round here, but also in the undrafted class. As you said, the roster spots are now all kind of locked up. Well, how do you think that this roster, how much do you think this roster is going to change between now and the next 3 weeks and kind of shape things up as we approach the free agency period and then heading into Summer League, which is now less than 3 weeks away?
Well, there's now, the most pressing piece of business that I think they needed to get done with this summer was to trade Malcolm Brogdon, and they did that yesterday. But there's a few other guys that I think you will have to look at as them potentially being on the move. I think the 3 that really immediately come to mind are Matisse Thybulle, who I think is going to have a lot of interest from contenders because he's the type of player that's valuable on good teams for what he does defensively, and he's on a really manageable contract. So I think that's a guy that could be on the move. Jeremy Grant, who they have been resistant to trading in the past, but I think this summer it might make more sense from both sides, especially trading for Denny Avdija, and then also wanting to have, you look at the front court, they have their own young forwards, Jabari Walker, Toumani Camara, and Chris Murray. Like there's now, you throw Avdija in the mix. Like it makes some sense to at least look around and see what the Jeremy Grant market is like. And then the other one is Anthony Simons. And I know you and I kind of noticed the same thing last night in Joe Cronin's post-draft press conference when he said, he was asked about kind of what's next after the draft as far as building the roster, and he said that they're committed to Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe as the 2 guys they're building around. And I would just immediately, my antennas went up like, oh, that's interesting who he mentioned and who he didn't. I don't know if that was intentional, but I definitely noticed it, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's actually where I wanted to end with this one, is the framing that you got from Joe Cronin last night in the press conference. What was your kind of general takeaway from the description of how, not just with as it pertains to Scoot and Shaedon, but the path that the team is now kind of heading down?
Well, I'll put it this way. I did not get the sense from he still talked about last night. Like I've seen some reports out there that they're trying to fast track it and get it back into the playoffs. When you look at what he said last night, he used the words "we're a rebuilding team" a couple of different times. He also said, we're not good enough. We need to be adding to our talent base. I don't think, even though they, a player like Denny Avdija, who they traded for, is a guy who, would be helpful in a, winning, playoff contending type of situation. I don't get the sense that they have any kind of mandate to say, hey, we have to push for the playoffs or push for the play-in this year. I think there's still slow building it, and they're gonna, at the very least, this next season, the record is probably still going to be pretty similar to what it was last year. But there's kind of the pieces are starting to make a little bit more sense now, like moving Brogdon out and clearing out a little bit of that logjam and replacing their, veteran point guard when they already have a bunch of guards with a wing, which is a position that they didn't have a lot of. I think it's starting to make a little bit more sense now, and it'll be interesting to see what the rest of their offseason looks like as far as which other guys are moved out and who's brought in.
Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report, generous enough to join us here for a couple of segments ahead of the NBA draft, round number 2. Sean, thanks, man. I'll let you go because I know you got to go cover round number 2. It's going to start here in just under 7 minutes. Thanks for taking some time. We'll check back in with you again, all right?
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, man.
Shout out to Sean for hopping on short notice. I was like, hey, man, you want to hop on today? We got a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to say the same thing, and I want to get your opinion on some things too. So everything that Sean kind of went through there, we see things pretty similarly, I think, right now as far as the transactions that took place yesterday and then expectations kind of going forward. I will say I was transcribing Joe's press conference on my phone last night, and when he said Scoot and Shaden as the building blocks going forward, my eyebrow went, Mer?
Right?
Because that's the first time it was that direct.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. I will say people noticed.
Yeah.
And not
I bet. Yeah.
And not just media folks.
Right.
So
I'm just not sure that we've seen enough from either of them at this point. Now, granted, we got one season of Scoot and Shaden Sharp has clearly been limited by some injuries, but yeah, it seems a little premature to me. But also, we know that basically, well, we don't know. There's a good chance Ant is going to be moved. You know what I mean? And so that leaves you with your guards there. Those are your guards. So, I guess, yeah, there we go.
It's an interesting spot to be. That's for sure. I didn't think that they have made any decision yet, but and again, they haven't made a decision quite yet, but that was a pretty loud endorsement, as it were, kind of looking at how all of that is shaking out. So I'm a little surprised that because Joe's been pretty careful with his words, so that means I think last night might have been intentional. What do you think?
Well, he's look, I'm not going to go out and say that like a coach or a front office person is going to go out to a press conference and say something they know to be intentionally misleading. Texas A&M baseball.
Yeah.
But
how dare you?
Yeah. But there have also been the times where, what was it before last year when Joe said we were going to be, ridiculously aggressive or something
around him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's, yeah, I guess this has less to do with having to deal with willing partners than his previous statements that didn't come to fruition. Does that make sense?
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're about to start the 3-hour extravaganza centered around Bronny James being drafted with the third to last pick in the NBA draft. Although there has been some noise about Oklahoma City at 52. Getting a little weird. I'd like it just to see if Presti. You know what? In all honesty, I bet you LeBron probably wants Bronny to end up in Oklahoma City.
I think I saw Tim Legler said too, Boston should go ahead and draft him and be like, you want your kid? Come, it's going to take Austin Rivers.
Yeah, you go full Celtic pride.
Yeah,
I like
take
it.
him hostage.
There you go. Since 1966. So 60 years, 45 second-round picks have become all-stars. 45.
So that's less than 1 a year. Yeah.
So you can get some good players there,
yeah,
but
you can.
But when you find the Nikola Jokic's and the Draymond Greens in the world, and that's when you.
Well, and you're not necessarily looking for an all-star, but if you can get a second-round guy to come in and be a good rotation player,
look,
an 8th, 9th guy.
Gary Trent Jr., second-round pick.
Yeah.
Pat Connaughton, second-round pick. Jake Layman, second-round pick. Like those, Alan Crabb. Like if you earn a second contract as a second-round pick, that's a good draft.
Yeah.
Like that's legitimately, that is a good draft pick.
Absolutely.
So the Blazers will be on the clock relatively quickly here in the second round. When we come back, there's been some news and notes around the league. There's going to be some breaking league news, I think, is going to come out here pretty quick pertaining to Jamal Murray and the Nuggets. No, it's already out. As well as the opportunity for a potential trade for the Portland Trailblazers with the 40th pick. Danny and Dusty, 10 the fan. Number 2 here on Danny and Dusty on a Thursday afternoon. Dusty is, I don't know where he is. He doesn't tell me anything.
I think he's got like a golf weekend or something.
It's always a golf
if I remember
weekend
correctly.
for him. Anytime he's gone, it's a golf weekend.
Right.
He might be a bigger golf degenerate than Dirt.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, see, that's the thing is, Dirt just puts it out there where Dusty is a true degenerate and goes cloak and dagger. That's the difference. He wants you to think that he's not that, but in reality, he's not skipping out to go to football practice. He's skipping out to go golfing all the time. That's what's actually happening. All right, hour two here on Danny and Dusty. Dusty is out. Jeff Russ behind the glass. Danny Moran in. Solo show here is the Portland Trailblazers are in day number 2, round number 2 of the NBA draft. And hour number 1 kind of just did the cursory stuff on Denny Avdija being traded to the Portland Trailblazers for Malcolm Brogdon, 2 first and 2 second-round picks, and then selection of Donovan Clingan at pick number 7. We will get into some audio from last night at the Portland Trailblazers practice facility. Joe Cronin, general manager of the Portland Trailblazers, doing media availability for about 15-20 minutes last night and taking questions. We'll dive into that. We do have some Portland Trailblazers-related news. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports is reporting that Oklahoma City has a deal in place to swap the 52nd pick, which they just recently acquired, to move up with the Portland Trailblazers to the 40th pick. So that will get underway here relatively soon. The ESPN is a bunch of liars. ESPN's a bunch of liars. We're going to start the draft at 1 o'clock. Just like last night, we're going to start the draft at 5 o'clock. We did not start until like 5:20. They're now saying that the draft is going to resume in 10 minutes and 18 seconds, which would put this at 1:15.
Yep.
Bunch of liars.
Yeah. That's always the way it goes.
Yeah, come on, man. That's just...
Well, it's like when they call things a 7 o'clock tip in the NBA. You know that son of a gun starting at like 7:10, 7:12.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Even
stuff.
for the early half of the doubleheader. 4:30 tip. Well, no, it's like 4:45.
This is why, look, we won our liberation through the Revolutionary War against the Brits. Old wood-toothed George Washington massacred a bunch of Brits crossing a river on Christmas, surprising living hell out of a bunch of Brits who didn't think that that big monster was going to do that. But one thing we didn't take from the Brits was their timeliness. Go watch a soccer match in England. When they say noon kick,
yeah,
they mean
noon.
They're watching the second hand.
Yeah.
Deet,
that coverage usually starts at 5 minutes before the top of the hour.
Buddy, then you go.
Yeah.
Look, I don't like the Brits for a lot of reasons. I respect their efficiency and their timeliness when it comes to sporting activities. It's the one thing I will give them. I'm not giving them their food, their culture, their weather, anything else. Their timeliness when it comes to sports. When they say kickoff time, they mean kickoff time.
Yeah.
It's truly a wonder among wonders. This is going to be 3 hours of shameless wall-to-wall coverage on Bronny James from ESPN. Mm-hmm. Again, we have been sitting here since the show started, and Bronny James has come up on this graphic 4 times in an hour and 6 minutes.
It's going to be insufferable until we hit pick number 55, isn't it?
I kind of want him to go earlier. Well, no, because if he go earlier, all they're going to do is spend the rest of the show talking about
How do the Lakers get him now?
God, it's we're trapped in a like it's like what's that movie, Little Nicky, Adam Sandler, where they every day they shove the pineapple up Hitler. It's like, oh, it's that time. It's like we're stuck in a loop of hell.
Now I realize that Adam Sandler's had a couple of stinkers, but is Little Nicky the biggest stinker of them all?
No, because it has like moments of like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, see, I don't even know that I've ever seen that one all the way through. Like, I'm a big Adam Sandler guy. I love Adam
It's bad.
Sandler.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's objectionably.
I mean, are we
bad.
like, have we even surpassed like Grown Ups 2?
That's bad. that was him, Kevin James, Chris Rock coming together and like, you just want to cut a check. I think that was money laundering. That's what that was. HP Basketball, Matt Moore at the Action Network has got a what we call in the industry the slop roundup.
Yes.
The trade slop that is out there, because that's what it is. There's so much, like, I don't think people truly understand how much quote unquote discussions take place, which is why I don't report 99% of what I hear.
Right. Because most of what you hear is also not going to happen.
It doesn't end up happening. Yeah. Like, but you know what discussions are happening, and kind of like when you hear a pick like trade like 4 months later, like, oh yeah, it's like they were talking about that months ago. And that's how most of the stuff happens. Now every now and then it's like it comes up out of nowhere. The Avdija trade. Like, that's from seeds planted at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where that stuff comes from.
Yeah.
So,
well, and Schmitz has apparently liked Avdija for a long time.
yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you can draw the lines very quickly as far as like how this stuff goes. But as it pertains to particular news, notes, and rumors around the Portland Trailblazers, Matt had a couple things, and this matches everything that I've heard. In that the Blazers are open for business to an extent. He says the Blazers, Portland expected to field offers for Robert Williams despite his injury history, and Ayton despite his Ayton history. Grant is thought to be available, but the price is high. Portland is not actively trying to move his contract. There's been this weird thing over Jeremy Grant's contract, and Jeff, we've been doing this show for 2 years, and when Jeremy Grant signed his contract, I said then, very bluntly, his contract will look totally fine in the next TV deal.
Yep.
Everybody chill.
Yep.
Did I not say that?
You did.
Okay. I had I had people in general pushing back that I've ever said that. And I was like, I was the one saying that, and people were calling me a shill for saying that. What do you mean? No. Jeremy Grant's contract is totally fine. And now I have said that Jeremy Grant, while not a part of the future, is not somebody the Portland Trailblazers are actively trying to move.
Mm-hmm.
To be blunt, JG is stone cold chilling.
Yeah.
He is totally happy here.
Yeah.
He's got his kid. He's in a good place. He mentally, emotionally, physically, he likes it here. He's happy here. He's not over there like, Joe, trade me now. Trade me now. If a deal comes along that makes sense for the Portland Trailblazers,
they'll do it.
They'll do it.
Yeah.
But they're not just going to go give Jeremy away for S's and G's.
Right.
Like, that's where they're at with this. And everyone's like, they have to trade Jeremy. No, they don't. They're totally fine.
Yeah.
And if they do trade him, it's because they found a deal that they like.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with this. It's been so weird. Like, the whole, like, Jeremy must go. And I'm like, it's entirely.
It's not one of those deals where we have to move one of the guards. We have to move one of the centers.
No. Now, does it get a little clunkier? Not necessarily clunkier, but a little more cluttered with the addition of Avdija? Yeah, it does. I think as of right now, my preferred starting lineup would be Anthony, Shea, Denny, Jeremy, DA.
Okay.
I would say that there is not a good chance, but there is a real chance for the first time since he has been here that Anthony could be traded. And I think you saw the signs of that with Joe Cronin last night mentioning the Scoot Shaden kind of like timeline continuum.
Yes.
In no uncertain terms.
Right.
So if that's the case, okay, then you've got Scoot, Shea, Denny, Jeremy, DA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The players that are blocking development paths in that regard are Jeremy and DA.
Yes.
I don't think Donovan Clingan, and Joe Cronin, I think, said as much last night, is going to play 35 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably going to play 18 to 20 minutes a night.
Right.
He's never really played a real heavy minutes load because it's going to take him a while to probably work his way up to that level of light conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA rookie wall is a real thing, particularly for 7'3", 300-pound humans.
Exactly. Well, so now when it comes to Ayton versus Williams, it seems like Williams might be the more obvious choice to move because of the injury history.
Yes. And I think so, too. So I have heard that Time Lord's out there.
Yeah.
And
because he's already penciled in basically as your backup five anyway.
He can play some 4 and some 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, but yes, I think that's the reality. If he was healthy, he would be that guy. But the other one that's kind of, quote unquote blocked here is Tumani. The way I look at it now is like, now you've got a wing rotation. Your wing rotation is Denny, Jeremy, Tumani, Jabari. And Ryan Rupert is the odd man out because he's the 19-year-old that's developing.
Right.
The reason he didn't spend a ton of time in the incubator last year with the G League is because they were so injured.
Yes.
Otherwise, he had to be on the rolled ankle alert, which meant he was a rolled ankle away from like being in the active like rotation lineup.
Right.
So,
well, that was going to be my next question, which was going to be of the the guys that maybe you saw come and pop last year, some of the younger guys when we were in injury situations, like your Tumani and Rupert, and some of the younger guys, Chris Murray. How much of that role that they played last year on what we're hoping to be was a thinner team than this year? How much will we be relying on those guys in the future, specifically starting this season?
And I think that's the interesting part of this, in that I wonder what the Blazers' plans are with Jabari, because I think they're going to have to make a decision between Jabari and Chris Murray.
That was another one.
Yep. As of right now, I think Jabari's ahead of Chris to an extent, if you're talking about playing purely the 4, but also Avdija's rebounding allows them to have another rebounder on the floor, which is what kind of Jabari was doing out there. So does that make, I don't want to say it makes him expendable, but I think that makes him a guy that they could consider moving, because Avdija is a plus rebounder at his position. As multiple people have texted into the Vancouver 4 text line, 503-864-6326. Avdija led the Wizards in rebounding last year.
At 7?
Well, I mean, Gafford got traded, so.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, then.
So, by default.
Yeah.
But still.
So an asterisk, but still.
But 7 boards a game as a 6'9" wing it's really good. It's a really good number. And I think it's a good problem to have, and that those kind of opportunities that kind of pop up and shape how the roster is going to go. Let's dive into that next. Let's dive into the press conference, media availability from General Manager Joe Cronin last night. There's a bunch of different things that I want to talk about and link to. And when we come back, we will be diving into the first couple picks of the second round. We will go live if the Blazers do make the pick at pick 34. All that coming up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. My phone is currently blowing up with. So this is going to be a little inside baseball, but I'm in here today and I'm by myself, so I get to help control the microphone. I'm going to go full Adam Sandler. I have the microphone, sir.
So you will listen to everything that I have to say.
The coverage right now in the second round that has basically been 15 minutes of Bronny James is so irrationally stupid. I'm so tired of it already. The kid doesn't deserve this. Like, not only does he not deserve this level of coverage, he doesn't deserve this level of scrutiny or any of this. Just let him be. I don't care. Just let him be, for the love of God.
The current media landscape?
That's the problem. Is we just had Stephen A. Smith, who knows nothing about the NBA draft.
Yeah.
Rant for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Stop.
I heard basically what was about the 15th pick. He came on. He's like, I have no idea who this guy is.
Yes. He did. None of them
and
do.
He's on your NBA draft cover. Just
Bob Myers is out here talking about last night when the Denny Avdija trade. He's like, well, Denny Avdija is due some money, so that's why Washington got off him. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Is it too hard
to you move to TV and you lose touch?
Yeah. Is it too hard to get like your Bobby Marks and maybe isn't Fran Fraschilla still employed by ESPN?
Yes, and Fran knows it all, buddy. That guy,
especially the international side.
Grinds.
Yeah. So I mean, is it too hard to have actual basketball minds on the panel?
This is why. Look, JJ's going to be a pain in the ass with the Lakers and his press conference and blah, 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 blah.
But he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows basketball.
He knows what he's talking about. He knows how to talk about it. Same with Tim Legler. It's like Shanae Ogumake. Zach Lowe, I still really like, but even then he's become a bit of a TV personality. We are actually getting underway, and the pick is in the second round for the Toronto Raptors to get us underway. This was looked at as kind of a value slot to kind of get into this first pick of the second round. Jonathan Magbo of San Francisco, who's a athletic freak who played at San Francisco. You could not find a more dedicated Toronto Raptor if you tried. Like, he fits the Masai Ujiri draft profile like you would not believe. Back to the press conference, though, before I went on my little rant. The press conference last night featuring Joe Cronin. There's a couple different things he got into. First of all, I asked Joe about how he's going to kind of fit in stylistically, how he is. He's different from the guys that they brought in last year, and Robert Williams III and DeAndre Ayton, and how that defense and offense is going to change.
Are we talking? Is this the Klingon defense? What we
want
here?
Yes, Klingon defense.
Thank you. Sorry.
Donovan, to me, is an interesting defender. Of course, he's more of a drop big that's best around the rim. I mean, it's what he does best is protect the rim. But his IQ and his feel and his ability to navigate and react and play the right angles or adjust his depth depending on who you're playing against and what you're trying to take away. I think Donovan's gonna be a nice versatile defender that in general is just gonna up our defense, something that we've continually tried to do and we're starting to get better at, but we still have a long ways to go there. I think rim protection, has been a big hole of ours, and Donovan helped solve that problem.
Okay, so to kind of rewind and set up the draft process is kind of how I kind of viewed it. I wanted them to take a swing on a wing, high upside. They took care of that by trading for Denny Avdija. Yes. Now Donovan Clingan falls with them at number 7. And I would strongly believe that Donovan Clingan was number 1 on their board. Now, Joe Cronin made a point of last night of saying, I don't want to get into that publicly. I don't want to put any additional pressure on him. I think he's learned that calling a young big, a combination of Kevin McHale, Rasheed Wallace, and who's LaMarcus Aldridge, it's not good for a young player.
It puts a little bit of weight on his shoulders.
Yeah. So, but if you're asking me what I think, and the perception around the league is that that he was number 1 on their board, numero uno. But it is a very, 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 very different change in philosophy. You're not, this, rangy, fast, switchable, fluid big. You went, I want to park a phone booth in the paint, which is what the Dallas Mavericks did with Derek Lively. And if you can find a way to keep him at the rim, that's what he does. He is a rim deterrent. It's not only just a shot blocker, 9'7" standing reach. This is just a massive human.
Yeah,
again,
that's big.
For anybody who doesn't know where he kind of rates in NBA size, I have a database that has all of the combine measurements that go back to 2008, so almost 20 years of combine measurements. He is in the 99th percentile. 99th percentile in, let me pull all of the actual ones up here. In hand length, he's in the 85th percentile in hand width, 99th percentile in height without shoes, standing reach, weight, and wingspan.
Yeah. Big dude.
That's across all positions in the NBA.
Yeah.
He is just a massive, massive, massive human. And even in the NBA where everybody's like, oh, everyone's big, he's different. Like, he's just like the only guys that have been bigger ever at the combine, like across the board, are Zach Edey and Taco Fall. Like, that's the list.
Yeah.
He's huge. Yeah. Okay? Like, barefoot, he's 7'2".
That's big dude.
Wait, 288. Like, he's just a massive human. We are now making the second selection in the second round. Duke's Kyle Filipowski falls out of the first, goes to the second round, and the Utah Jazz get their large white.
Yeah.
Large white.
Caitlin Clark is white.
Yeah. Yeah, that's God, it just writes itself. Flip came through here. He fell down the board because while he's got good size, he's the exact opposite of Donovan Clingan. He's got T-Rex arms. So his wingspan is actually shorter than his height. But he, in theory, can shoot. Like, if he could put that together, 7-footer who can shoot has value. The Jazz have done well with, the Olynyk types, and I think he's kind of like Olynyk light because he doesn't move like Kelly.
Now, do we know how well he's going to recover from that horrific knee injury when the fans stormed the court?
Wow. Yeah, him and Caitlin both. Oof. God. I forgot he had that one too. Yeah. God, Jay Billis got so indignant about that.
Oh,
too.
He did.
And I love Billis, but
so do I. But yeah, don't come after his
He ripped
Dukies.
open his Duke freaking or his T-shirt to go full Superman to pull the Duke jersey that he still had on under his clothes.
Exactly.
Like, come on, brother.
I love Duke.
Yeah, I love Duke. Yeah, no, that's a hard pass. I really hope the Blazers take an upside swing here, whether that's Ulrich Chomchi, whether that's Justin Edwards, whether that's Juan Nunez. I want them to be like, all right, let's get a two-way and put this guy in the lab and see what the hell happens. That's what I want to see happen here. If when you're looking at this in this kind of part in the second round, is that what you want to see, or would you rather them see like find a guy who's like going to be like a solid veteran type, like in the Pat Connaughton vein, Gary Trent Jr. kind of player?
Here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want to draft and stash.
Why not?
Just
because it's out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. And what people are looking for right now is that, look, Portland fans know that next year they're going to suck too. And they're going to be in try to be in the running for the capture of the flag. So we already know that we got another rough year coming. But we don't want it to look like they're going to continue kicking the can down the road
I think it's good to have assets that are out there. Like if the deal that is reported that's out there from Jake Fisher gets consummated and they move back to pick 52, I'd like that one to be a stash because they just don't have the roster spot.
Right. Valid point. Yeah.
So if they took somebody that stayed overseas for a couple of years and then, hey, this guy develops and we really want to bring this guy over and he matches the timeline, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just an opportunity, particularly because they have two. So it's an interesting spot. Again, as it pertains to Joe Cronin, I want to dive into more of this. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I'm trying to get us to where we line up well for the break. So I want to take a break real quick. If the Blazers come back and they're in their pick, we'll dive right into that right away. Otherwise, we'll get to our worst day on the web coming up here next. But first, here's the Big Kahuna with the Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, draft night started early yesterday for the Trail Blazers as they traded the 14 pick in Malcolm Brogdon to the Wizards for small forward Denny Avdija. Washington will also receive a 2029 first-rounder and future second-round picks. Then with number 7, the Blazers took 7'2" UConn center Donovan Clingan. Round 2 is underway. Milwaukee currently on the clock with about 30 seconds remaining for the 33rd pick. Portland holds 34 and reportedly trading out of 40 down to 52. You can catch ESPN radio coverage over on 910 ESPN Portland. Shams Charania of The Athletic reporting the Nuggets and Jamal Murray are working toward a 4-year, $209 million max contract extension. Celtics center Kristaps Porzingis had surgery to repair the rare left leg injury suffered in the NBA Finals. He's expected to miss 5 to 6 months, which will put him back well into the start of next season. Suns guard Eric Gordon reportedly declining his $3.4 million player option. He'll become a free agent. And Suns shooting guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope will also become a free agent after declining his $15.4 million player option. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has new shirts from the fan shows and hosts you love. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
Need
Time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
As we sit here, the Portland Trailblazers are currently on the clock in the second round. They have about 2 minutes to go until they make their pick, so it's a bit of a stall job here to see which way if they go here. It does, I've heard more than a few people have told me that Johnny Furphy of Kansas is definitely an option here for the Portland Trailblazers. I have tweeted out 3 kangaroo emojis to hop on the get it. I hopped on the Furphy bandwagon. Did you know Furphy is like a Furphy in Australia is a tall tale?
Sure, I'll take your word for it.
So,
how tall is this Furphy?
He's 6'8", 6'9".
All right, there we go.
He's a skinny lad. And Mike Schmitz is I think, and then the Trailblazers themselves, I think they like to look at these guys and go, "You're small now, but what could you be?"
Yeah, can we put some beef on you?
The Ryan Ruperes of the world.
Right.
And you kind of go, Shaden Sharp. Everybody's looking at I don't want to say viral, but a picture of Shaden Sharp working out in the offseason. Like, look at Shaden, he's jacked. And I'm like, this is going to sound super weird, but I'm in a locker room with these guys all the time and their shirts are off. Shaden Sharp's always been jacked. It's just, turns out 21-year-olds, when they're in the gym lifting, particularly professional athletes, they get a little pump going.
Yeah.
So yeah, they look real big because they're real big.
Right. Kind of the way that goes.
So it's very interesting to see. We've now seen through the first round, or excuse me, the first part of the second round, Jonathan Mogbo is gone 31st. Duke's Kyle Filipowski is gone 32nd. G League Ignite big man Tyler Smith is gone 33rd. Filipowski and Tyler Smith, both players that came in and worked out for the Trailblazers. I heard Tyler Smith's workout was not fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nope, they're trading out. Portland Trailblazers trading the 34th pick to New York for 3 second-round picks.
Okay.
There you go.
So do we know the years on those picks yet?
Not yet. Last second trade. Bum, 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 bum.
Okay, then.
This is the New York Knicks taking Tyler Kolek. That's the change there. Kolek was rated as the top player in the I should say the top player in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
He is a guy that I had mocked going to the Knicks in the first round, where they had 2 first-round picks. So that is a big shift. All right, now we don't know where this is going to be at going forward. What picks they got from this? We'll see where this ends up going. Let's get back to the worst day on the web. And we had Kristen Peak on Monday. The interesting thing was, at that point in time, was Zach Edey could potentially go 7th. And that was a report from Kevin O'Connor. Kristen Peak came on and said, no, not much. She went on another show later in the day and said she would call that a fireable offense. And then she tripled down on Yahoo Sports last night after Zach Edey was selected 9th by the Memphis Grizzlies.
The Memphis Grizzlies selected 7'4", 300-pound Zach Edey with the 9th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. This is shocking considered the way that the NBA is turning in terms of value and upside as a hybrid center. He's more of a back-to-the-basket, Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon type, and I absolutely have no idea how he's going to fit in the backcourt with Ja Morant. He only connected on 8% of his shots off pick and rolls, and defensively, he's a liability in the pick and roll with his limited footwork. There's defensive 3 seconds. Teams are going to hunt him in the pick and roll.
You don't normally see someone scorch the earth. I respect the living hell out of KP. Number one, the work she does.
Yeah, she called it basically one of the worst top 10 picks she's ever seen.
She did not back away from this.
Yeah.
For whether you disagree, agree, whatever you think it is, that is a impressive foot being stamped down. Now, I don't know which way to go with that. I don't think Edey is the worst or top 10 worst, but I do have my questions. Do the Memphis Grizzlies use him as a starter? Does he play real minutes? Is he situational? Those are all the things that I have questions about.
Mm-hmm.
But I respect that KP just said, nah.
Yeah.
Did you see John Morant's post on Instagram last night?
Yes, I did.
The Rush Hour 3, where it's
yes.
Chris Rock, or Chris Tucker walking into the dojo, and it's like the 7'5" Chinese guy. Like he walks through the door, and all you see is the chest.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, damn."
The way only Chris Tucker can.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a pretty interesting spot. So Johnny Furphy, who I thought would go to the Portland Trailblazers at 34, went 35. So
Okay.
if they didn't take him there, he was gone. So, but we do have news as the Portland Trailblazers have made a trade. They traded the 34th pick for 3 second-round picks. That is, they have now recouped more than they sent out in the Denny Avdija trade.
Mm-hmm.
Where those seconds are and how many years,
We don't know yet.
I don't know yet. We're still chasing that.
Yes.
So as I'm sitting here on air, I'm literally trying to text and talk at the same time. And it's not an easy thing to do. Normally I can kind of toss it to Dusty and be like, hey, can you talk for a second while I try to text back and forth?
I'm not quite there yet.
No. Totally fine. Totally fine. But no, it's having that third person that's really useful.
Yes.
I would like to know where those picks are. And how these things all shake up. The Johnny Furphy pick going 35th overall. It's being reported as the Pacers. On the screen, it's still the Spurs. I don't know who owns the pick, for the love of God. All I know is, as of right now, the Portland Trailblazers have picked up 3 second-round picks, which is one more than they sent out in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what team they are and what year they are, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out. The value of second-round picks is up.
Yeah.
So, and we're now getting clarification. Johnny Furphy is indeed heading to the Pacers at pick number 35, and the Spurs are swapping back to go to pick number 36, where at pick 36, the Spurs are going to take Juan Nunez, the point guard out of Spain. He was a guy that I thought Portland might take a look at because when moving Malcolm Brogdon and under the consideration of moving Anthony Simons,
Mm-hmm.
there could be an opportunity for some guard minutes there.
Yes.
So it's I really want to see what picks Portland gets, if they have moved completely out or if they still are looking at somebody in this range, or if they are now out of this draft with the exception of the 52nd pick,
right,
which could happen at pick number 40, which is coming up here relatively quick. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break, come back, and hopefully we can get a few more answers to where things are shaping out into this. Woj right now, the Knicks are sending the Blazers future second round. Hold on. The Knicks are sending the Blazers future second round picks for Tyler Kolek at number. Okay, that's what we already know. All right, so we'll take a quick break, come back, and hopefully I can have a few answers as to where these picks are, what years, and how these things are shaping out. Come up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Well, there's certainly a lot of wheeling and dealing going on in the NBA right now as we have had trade after trade after trade after trade here in the second round as teams are trying to set their rosters up with the opportunity costs that come with second-round picks. There's a lot of different ways to kind of shape things going forward now under the new CBA. Johnny Furphy was a guy that I heard had value going into the first round. I heard was literally being texted as we came back from the last break that he was in play for Portland at pick number 34. He ends up going at 35, I think, after New York decided that they needed to move up to get Tyler Kolek. And Adrian Wojnarowski is saying they traded 3 second-round picks to get the Blazers' 34th pick. Remember, the Blazers are picking at pick 40 still. A potential trade between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Portland Trailblazers has not been announced or confirmed. The Knicks are trading the 38th pick to Oklahoma City, so that 38th pick that was possibly a second-round pick is not going to Portland. So that makes sense. So Oklahoma City was rumored to look at pick 40 to move up with Portland. This is them probably moving here. I guess.
Right?
I'm so confused into what's happening right now. There's so much going on.
Well, and it seems like correct me if I'm wrong here, but the proliferation of trades involving multiple second-round picks over the last couple of years. Because remember, last year, the big one seemed to be
Gary Payton swapping
player
for
X
5.
for 5. Yeah, and that wasn't the only player traded for 5 second-round picks.
No.
There was a handful of those.
And if you want to go down a rabbit hole of trying to chase picks, it's nobody owns their own second round picks anymore.
Right.
Like
Well,
if you look at the list and how it's broken out, it's like, huh?
So my point is that basically it seems like it's almost looked at more of a trade asset than a personnel asset.
I think it's becoming more of a financial asset in the sense of like because they're not slotted like they are first round picks. You know what I mean? Like the money can be so drastically different, whether it's the two-way deal, whether you give them under the new CBA, you can take money from your not your MLE, from another source and give them a contract straight out of that. You can use your MLE in trades. You can use a piece of your exception in trades. Like all the different machinations that are coming out. This is just there's so much opportunity for not necessarily the biggest of gains, but like they can help you make moves where if you do find a guy, and unfortunately it can kind of quote unquote screw a player in the sense of like Duop Reith isn't getting screwed because he's making $3 million guaranteed.
Right.
But let's say this is a very extreme example. Let's say Duop Reith all of a sudden turns into like the second coming of Jesus on basketball. Like he's only got $1.5 million guaranteed each year. So, but because like, hey, this was your opportunity, this was your chance, this is where you kind of get locked in. So like teams can kind of take advantage of this to an extent. Oklahoma City has done this. They had Lou Dort on one of those deals. Like Lou Dort's previous deal was hilarious. He was making next to nothing. And then he went up to like $17 million a year.
Yeah.
When he actually got paid.
Nice little bump.
So like when you figure that out and you go from that stage to the next one, it's quite the jump. But it's a very, very, very interesting spot for them to all end up in and land in as it pertains to the roster building aspects of your team. It's not that they're not important. They're just further down the pecking order.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of.
So there's some real value there, but there's opportunity cost that is lost in between there. I want to get back because we've bounced around so much. I'm sorry, guys. This is what happens when the NBA draft is literally going on during the show. Yes. I want to talk about the audio from Joe Cronin talking about Sean Eichen was on with us earlier in the show, and we talked about this exact piece of audio. And I want to play it for you for those of you that have not heard it, where Joe Cronin talks about pushing forward with and building alongside Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe.
We've got to continue to build this talent base. And, we're committed to Scoot and Shaden being a massive part of what we're doing. And how do we find ways to, give them the support they need and make them better and maximize their development. So it's continually seeking players that we can add to this roster that we can grow with and build together with.
That's the line that made many of us in the room last night perk up.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty clear.
Yes.
And I would venture a guess that Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, they're all aware of kind of like how that goes. Now, it doesn't mean that their time is over immediately. No. But if they didn't already know, and they're not dumb,
right,
that they know kind of time is finite in here unless something drastically shifts. And I think that's a very, 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 very important distinction.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have that in the past.
Right.
And this is the thing that I have called for under Neil and under Joe. Pick a path.
Yes.
No
more riding the fence. One foot in the rebuild and 1 foot in the retool.
Yeah. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Just pick a path. If you fall on your face, you fall on your face.
Yeah.
But commit to something.
Yeah.
I think this was the first opportunity where they have legitimately looked at and committed to something. So the NBA draft now is caught up. Mark Tatum is making the 38th pick in the draft. AJ Mitchell from UC Santa Barbara, who is somehow going to go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Blazers don't have roster spots. I don't know how the Thunder have roster spots. Where are they pulling these roster spots from? Could somebody explain to me how do the Thunder have a bigger roster than everybody else? Because they seemingly have a million names.
Right. I mean, yeah, players, moves will have to be made.
I'm doing the most inappropriate thing in radio, and I'm just going to completely derail things before we get out of the segment and get into hour number 3. We do have a bit of breaking news in a legal case.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Breer is reporting that a federal judge has ordered the NFL to pay $4.7 billion.
Wow.
In residential class damages and $96 million in commercial class damages to fans and bars, respectively, in the Sunday ticket case.
Wow.
That is the monopolization distribution case, which, shout out a $5 billion damages assessment.
Boy.
NFL just throwing money at it.
Yeah. Well, so now how does that then, because I remember a few weeks back we talked about how ESPN was going to try to be in on this. And charge a much lower rate.
I think that.
So are we looping in the YouTube deal with this too?
I think you might see a price change.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with this. I just wanted to drop that little nugget here in the middle of the NBA. We will come back and we will reset in hour number 3. Up and down the draft, there is a draft grades up and down the NBA draft. And I want to reach out to you guys. 503-864-6326. Between trading for Denny Avdija and drafting Donovan Clingan, what grade would you give the Portland Trailblazers? In fact, during the break, I will put up a poll, and we'll have some discussions around draft grades here in hour number 3 here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Hour number 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a wonderful Thursday afternoon. Thanks for joining us. No Dusty Hero. He's out matriculating down the golf courses. Jeff Russ behind the glass. We are in day 2 of the NBA draft. The second round is currently undergoing a lot of moves, and there is a ton of movement that we will need to unpack. But first, we are down to just a handful of spots at the Autotown GMC presents the 10th annual Fan Golf Classic, Langdon Farms Golf Club. Come join us for our unique golf experience Thursday, July 11th. That's now 2 weeks away from today, in fact. Wow.
Indeed.
Good God. Summer League's in 2 weeks? How? How?
Well, that's about how fast Caitlin Clark went from getting drafted to starting her first game.
You're not kidding. Goodness gracious. Afternoon is sold out. The morning round is still open. It's down to a single-digit number. Not many left. Matt's Barbecue's back to serve their award-winning food and usual array of craft beverages. Will be out there for everybody. Victor Rico's Mexican food serving their world-famous breakfast burritos. Wah, 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 wah. God, I love a breakfast burrito. Warm for your round on the Michelob Ultra driving range. And they've let the animals out of the cage.
Yeah.
Dirt and Sprague, Dusty and I, Isaac and Suk, we are no longer doing shows on site.
Yeah.
They are letting us get there at 7 o'clock in the morning and start drinking.
Yeah. I think Kim's words were just basically make sure you can stand.
Look, I could spread it out over hours. That's how this goes. But yeah, you could come out. We will be up and down the course. Each show is essentially going to have our own cart. And we'll just be mobbing around, causing all kinds of chaos. I'll probably hop into your group and take a swing and screw you over, and then take some shots with you. Like
there we go.
That's kind of the goal. I will probably be driving around with a bottle of tequila in the cart. We can do that, right? It's not technically.
Well, maybe we'll have somebody drive you around in the cart.
I will be driven around with a bottle of tequila in the cart. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's
not operating a motor vehicle or open container, right?
Well, it's different than golf,
right? I mean,
it's like
probably shouldn't be, but it is.
Well, it kind of is. It's like the airport. You know, you want a beer at 7 o'clock? Go ahead.
Well, I meant the open container in a vehicle.
Yeah. Well, that's not really a vehicle though.
Somebody out there is probably saying
it's not street legal. There's no plates on it.
Okay, there are so many trades right now. I'm going to now attempt to understand where things are.
Hold on, everybody.
As a reminder,
here's the situation.
We will also be out of the par 3 6th on at Langdon Farms. Brought to you by Doers. You can sign up for the remaining spots at 1080thefan.com. Jake Fisher, Adrian Wojnarowski, Shams Charania are all trying to figure out what the hell just happened because technically the Portland Trailblazers are picking right now. This pick is not theirs because it has been washed and laundered through like 8 different teams, and I'm not joking, in the past 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's enough to make Marty Bird blush.
Brother, good God almighty. The Phoenix Suns are selecting here at pick number 40. The Trailblazers are making the pick. It is Oso Ighodaro, who the Blazers brought in for a workout at the week before the draft, last week. Actually, I believe it was last Thursday. He was one of the last public workouts. That pick, per Jake Fisher, OKC traded Lindy Waters III for the number 52 pick to Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
The Thunder then moved from number 52 to number 40, this pick. What the Trailblazers got for number 40, shrug emoji. I got nothing, man. I would imagine they're getting something, 52 and another second.
Well, I think you mentioned in cash.
Or maybe they just straight up bought it.
Yeah.
Which you can do.
Right.
There's a limited
Unless you're in the second apron.
Yes, and there's a limited amount of money that the teams have to work with, and they do have 2 seconds. They could have said, we'll take, $2 million, call it good.
Yeah.
Fine. They don't have a roster spot, and then if they couldn't find somebody they wanted at that spot to get a 2-way deal, fine, whatever. But they moved from 52 to number 40, and then Oklahoma City jumped from 40 to 38 with New York. Okay, so that means the Knicks had the pick for a split second, and the Knicks are trading number 40 to the Suns. We still don't know what the hell happened at pick 34, where the Knicks moved up to 34 and gave the Portland Trailblazers 3 second-round picks.
Right.
Okay. We don't know what picks those are. Do the Blazers have any picks left in the second? I don't know. I've got text messages out trying to figure it out, but even the newsbreakers don't know, so the chance of me being able to find that out right now is slim to none.
What the hell is going on?
So I'm trying to still figure out if the Portland Trailblazers have a pick in the second round.
Right.
I believe they have 52. That is my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, Christ almighty, the Suns are trading the Knicks 51 and 56. And that's for pick 40. Okay. I'm not kidding. There have been 12 to 15 transactions.
Yeah, it's bananas.
In the past 10 minutes. I've never seen anything like this. And we have not got to Bronny James yet.
Well, like, I guess this is pretty much exactly, the best case scenario that the league was looking for by having this on a second day, right? All this kind of action.
Okay. Bob Myers apparently has just said on ESPN that Rich Paul is telling teams that if they try to draft Bronny James, that he will play in Australia, and he seemed entirely serious. This controls, just do it. Do it. Screw it. Do it. Now, I don't want to do it to Bronny. I want to do it to the agency trying to redirect this.
Right. It's like, how much leverage do you think you have over what is likely to be like one of the last 4 picks of the draft?
Right.
Because I think if I remember correctly, I saw this is only a 58 pick draft.
Yes. Two picks are forfeited tampering.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't.
It's bananas.
And it's not Bronny. It's not his fault. It's his father's fault.
Yeah. Right.
I have nothing against Bronny. Nothing.
Well, it's his father's fault and also the Lakers for acquiescing. And, because the Lakers could just say, look, we'll make an effort, but we can't guarantee anything. We're not going to go bending over backwards for this. Sure, we'll try. We'll give it a shot.
Look, and I get...
But we're not going to go try to strong arm everybody.
Yeah, and I get...
They don't have to do that.
Oh. Whoop. Okay, we have clarification on the second round picks the Portland Trailblazers received. Per Jake Fisher, details on these seconds. New York sent Portland a 2027 Minnesota second round pick, a 2029 least favorable of Indiana and Washington, and New York's own 2030 second round pick. Okay,
so it's not this year.
So they do not have a pick in this draft remaining, perhaps other than pick 52. Okay. That is where they currently sit.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know if in the trade for pick number 40 that it was just cash or cash and 52. I would imagine if it's cash and 52, that will be a two-way contract.
Okay.
That is the opportunity. Wow. Okay. That's a lot. Shout out Jake Fisher for getting the actual details. Goodness gracious. That was a flurry of activity. Just wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to spend time on this now that we're getting closer to it. The Bronny James stuff is like the nepotism stuff is real. The control and all the redirection. I get it. He wants to play with his kid. I get it. But organizationally, as the Lakers, you're just sitting here like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And you're going to tell the kid that if he doesn't get to play with his dad, he's going to go to Australia?
Right.
Why would you do that? What if he went to a spot that was actually better for him?
Yeah. The Lakers as a franchise, as a storied organization, are not supposed to be this desperate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, I realize that they're one of the forefront brands in all of sports across the world. And you guys have said before, but it's run by a mom and pop, and it's bizarre.
No, they are. They're a mom and pop shop. They're one of the biggest brands in the world, and they are a mom and pop shop. And that's it's not only Jeannie Buss, but it's the Ramby and how everything kind of works through that. I look at this whole situation, and I'm not mad at the leverage. that LeBron is trying to exert. I just think it's wholly wrong.
Yeah.
Again, maybe Bronny does want this. Maybe Bronny does want this. And that's why he's going along with it. I'm not saying he's is weak-minded, can't handle his own. Maybe this is what he does really want. Is he would rather go play in Australia than play in the NBA without his dad.
Well, and it just
which
even
seems weird.
Yeah, it does. And it would even seem more reasonable if the kid were like a projected first round talent. I'm not even saying lottery or top 5 or 10, but even if he were like a second half first round talent, you could still, if you squint, see what they're doing here. But the guy that's largely projected to be one of the last 4 picks, I don't get it. I don't get it. And because in the meantime, what other kinds of, we've seen what the Lakers currently are with LeBron and AD when he plays, and so hiring JJ Redick and adding Dalton Connect and then possibly Bronny is supposed to turn them into a title contender.
Yeah, I don't. And look, JJ Redick went up there and said they're not that far away from a championship. There is not a person in the league that doesn't think that the Lakers are multiple high-level contributors away from being a title-winning team.
If by they're not that far from a championship, is he looking back on the bubble championship and be like, look, that wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that
we're
long.
Not that far away.
Yeah, we're not that far away from that. Linear time, we are not that far removed from that bubble championship. I'm getting a lot of people in the Vancouver Ford text line who are look, I like that the Vancouver Ford text line has a little bit of animosity to them. They're very much for drafting Bronny and just letting the cards fall where they may.
If you want to find one place that's full of piss and vinegar, it's the Vancouver Ford text line.
Right? It's truly great. Truly great. Like, I don't. Yeah. Okay. Now that we kind of have an understanding, I want to reset, see where we're at, and I want to dive into the draft grades now that we know we're going to have a little bit of time here before the Trailblazers are actually going to make any potential picks, and then we'll go from there. So we'll dive into the draft grades of day one. Your thoughts on the Vancouver Ford text line. What did you think, or how did you think the Portland Trailblazers did? 503-864-6326. Let us know how you think the Blazers did in day one of the NBA draft here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. the collective basketball world coming together and going full Darth Kermit and saying, do it, do it, do it. To any team willing to take Bronny in front of the Lakers just to give a double bird to clutch the Lakers and LeBron James.
Just throw a stick in the spokes of that wheel.
So, like, look, I crapped all over ESPN. This is tremendous theater. This is tremendous content because the world is collectively coming together. To this is like Battle of the Bastards. That's what this is right now. Like we are going full Game of Thrones, and this is what we're leaning into. And this, everyone with the Lakers is sitting here going, no, let Bronny go to the Lakers. Every other fan base, media person, every other person who has nothing to do with the Lakers is saying, somebody else do it. Somebody else, please do it. Please do it. Please do it. Please do it. Daryl, Danny, you know what to do. You have picks in between there. You have the capital, like not only like the actual draft capital to spend, but like to be clear, they can let their nuts hang. They've been around long enough to where like, what are you going to do, Rich? LeBron, you're retiring. You're going to be an owner soon. Shut up. You know, he doesn't have that kind of pull anymore. I thought that would be really interesting. All right, let's dive into some draft grades, shall we? Across the board, I will just say the Portland Trailblazers did really, 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 really well, according to all of the prognosticators. I am going to pull up the draft grades from the following services. I have them in order. The Sporting News, CBS Sports, if I can get my link to work, please, thank you, ESPN, USA Today, and Yahoo Sports. And across the board, the worst grade the Portland Trailblazers got, drumroll please, Jeff Russ, what do you think the worst grade the Portland Trailblazers got among the draft grade prognosticators?
Well, I'd be kind of cheating because I already looked at most of these links. But I think the worst I saw was a B.
Yes. The absolute worst grade given was a B.
Yeah. So, hey, not too shabby.
So for and look, I will say this. Looking around most of Blazers social media last night, Blazers Reddit, Blazers Edge, once you kind of understood who Denny Avdija was, his contract, his age, the value, there was a slight, like, a what?
His development.
Like, people slowed their roll pretty quick. Like, you know what? I do like this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me yesterday.
And then the Donovan Clingan pick, the value, and then kind of the expectation of what that's going to be. Everyone's like, even the biggest of haters across the board were sitting there going, huh. Blazers did pretty good, didn't they? And now there's some copium and talking yourself into like the next steps going forward. That's a part of a rebuilding process. Because if you don't have that hope and that cope, boy, does this part suck.
Well, I think about the worst thing I heard about Clingan is him kind of being more of an old school back to the basket type guy, not to the degree that like Zach Edey is.
No, yeah, and that's the thing is like the pick and roll game is going to be something that needs to develop.
They call him a rim runner, and he'll be there for they said he's a great lob pass recipient and a good passer from down there. Blah blah blah.
I would say DeAndre Ayton's a better lob catcher for sure, particularly with his verticality, but. Let's see kind of how that shakes out.
But if you're looking for a good 1-2 punch at that 5 position,
pretty damn good.
You could do worse.
Yeah. On Twitter, at Danny and Dusty, what grade would you give the Trailblazers in day one of the NBA draft, trading for Denny Avdija and drafting Donovan Clingan, number 7 overall? 550 plus votes. 1.8% said F. You people are miserable, but I appreciate you. 3.8% said C. 23.7% B. 70.7% say A and side with pretty much every single draft grade.
Yeah.
And I want to go to some audio from CBS talking about drafting Donovan Clingan. They spared no expense.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have that one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, from where we
home run. CBS audio.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
It's okay.
This is an A for Portland. This is a best case scenario. I mean, there was real traction for him going number 1. There was talk early on he could go number 2. They had all these teams, Memphis, Chicago, OKC, who were all trying to trade up to get him. It looked less and less likely that Portland would be able to get him to fall all the way to 7. Now they have their center of the future. We are talking about a huge physical presence in the rim, a defensive monster with his shot blocking, with his timing, and what we don't talk enough about is the offensive potential. At his size, to be able to dribble, to make slip passes and backdoor passes off the dribble when you're 7'2", and I think he's got some long-term shooting potential. We're a couple years away from that, but he's got real touch, and I think he's got a chance to stretch the floor. So this is a home run for Portland.
When was the last time you heard that?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
This is a home run for Portland, particularly at pick number 7.
Yeah,
no, that's when you're that far into the lottery already. Home runs are at number 1.
Yes.
Home runs are at number 2. Home runs are at number 3.
Right.
Home runs at number 7 are not common things to come by,
especially in a draft that was has been widely viewed by everybody as not a good draft.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he's right there. CBS Sports. Good God, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Hold on, I'm going to get it because I need to give credit where it's due.
That was Adam Finkelstein.
Finkelstein, thank you. My brain stopped working. I mean, that happens quite a bit, let's be honest. But in discussing Portland and getting Klingon, I've had a couple people say, well, I thought you didn't like the idea of Klingon. No. I didn't like the idea of Klingon if a high-level wing was on the board. That is where I was with this. And I stated that through and through and through, and I said over and over and over, if they have Klingon number 1 on their board, though, and they take him, I get it.
Yep.
It's not the way I would go if one of the high-level wings is on the board, because that's the thing I think they need to kind of address. That's the scarcity. That's the thing that's hard to find. They addressed that earlier in the day by getting Denny Avdija,
which we didn't see coming.
Yes, and that made the opportunity available to go get Donovan Klingon. And at that point, when you've addressed the other need, the one that I was like, yeah, fix that one first.
Right. And which is more of a known commodity.
Yes, and still young and still developing and on a great like they nailed that.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was like them getting the wing at 7. So for them to go and take Donovan Klingon at 7, I was like, you just got your number 1.
It's like they got 2 number 7s.
Yeah, you got your number 1 guy at pick number 7.
Yeah.
I tweeted out last night. I would have to think this is basically a A+ draft for Portland. In their war room, in that building, in the practice facility, they probably thought that they crushed it.
Did they let anybody get a camera shot of the whiteboard again?
No, did not happen. Did not happen. That they put that one out on their own.
Was that what happened?
Yeah, it was a 2013 draft, and it had CJ McCollum 1, and it had Mason Plumlee 2. Shout out, Neil.
So good.
Mason Plumlee, number 2.
Number 2.
He did love a big white center. This is the Neil O'Shea Memorial pick. I've seen a lot of people compare Klingon to Myers. They're not the same player, guys. Like I love Myers as a human being, and I wish it would have worked out for him better in the basketball world. I still talk to Myers pretty regularly.
Yeah.
They are not the same player just because they're white.
Well, he was taken as a project.
And he was, what's funny is he was a physical back to the basket guy, but he was still young, developing guy.
Very raw.
The jumper was a thing that came around year 2, year 3, year 4. That was Klingon. I don't think he's ever going to really stretch that out. I think he's got decent touch, but Myers is huge. Have you ever met Myers?
No, I don't think I ever made it around there. No.
7'1".
Yeah.
Like if you look at the draft index stuff on him, like from the combine, he's up there too.
Yeah.
Klingon's clearly bigger. I think I've told the story about Rudy Gobert when he was at Summer League, right? When he stretched out next to me on the bleachers. So for those that don't know, Rudy Gobert's Rudy Gobert. It was Rudy Gobert. It was Rudy Gobert's rookie year, and I was sitting on the benches in Thomas and Mack, the smaller gym off to the side on the UNLV campus, and it was in between games, and I was talking to an executive with the Jazz at the time, and Gobert came, and I was kind of like laying across the bleachers like you do, you kind of like stretch out and have your arm on one set, you lean it back.
Yeah.
Rudy came next to me and like mockingly mimicked me and covered like 8 more rows because he was just so big. And I was just like, I didn't really know who he was. Like I knew who he was, but like I didn't really, understand how big he was until I saw him, and I went, holy crap.
Yeah.
And
that's a large man.
Donovan's bigger than him already.
Man.
So like that's the thing everyone's like, well, he plays different than, this player or that player. I'm like, guys, I know he doesn't move his feet real well. He's not supposed to. He's 7'3", 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
He is supposed to be a massive human that getting around him alone is difficult. Like when you drive, you look at him and you go, I don't want to deal with that crap. That is he is a rim deterrent and a rim protector. And that's one of the things I want to dive into coming up next, how the Blazers can build things out around him and this new young core coming up here on Danny and Dusty. But first, here's a Big Kahuna with Sports Center Update.
You ever had a Big Kahuna burger?
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, draft night started early for the Trailblazers yesterday as they traded the number 14 pick in Malcolm Brogdon to the Wizards for small forward Denny Avdija. Washington will also get a 2029 first rounder and future second round picks. Then with number 7, as we were talking about there, Portland took 7'2" UConn center Donovan Clingan. Round 2 is underway. Portland traded number 34 to the Knicks for 3 second-round picks and number 40 to the Thunder for number 52.
We think.
You can catch ESPN's radio coverage on 910 ESPN Portland. Shams Charania of The Athletic reporting the Nuggets and Jamal Murray working toward a 4-year, $209 million max extension. Celtics center Kristaps Porzingis had surgery to repair the rare left leg injury suffered in the NBA Finals. He's expected to miss 5 to 6 months, which puts his return well into the start of next season. Suns shooting guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope declining his $15.4 million player option. He'll become a free agent. Suns guard Eric Gordon reportedly declining his $3.4 million player option and will become a free agent. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the Nuggets. And the Mariners off today as they head back home for a 6-game stand, host the Twins for a 3-game weekend set. Seattle holds a 4.5-game lead over Houston in the AL West. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The afternoon round of the 10th Annual Fan Golf Classic, presented by Autotown GMC, is sold out. And the morning round is filling up fast. Sign up now to play with 1080 The Fan.
Last night on the Jack Ramsey's Patreon, I wrote a semi-in-depth piece coming out of the press conference last night, talking about the Portland Trailblazers taking steps to move forward, and that it appears that that's kind of been done simply based on how things are shaping up right now. If you take a look at the 24 and under crew, that consists of Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Denny Avdija, Ryan Rupert, Toumani Camara, Jabari Walker, Chris Murray, Donovan Clingan, otherwise known as a point guard, a shooting guard, 2 forwards, and then 3 bigger forwards and a center. The remaining players, Anthony Simons, 25, Delano Banton, 25, Jeremy Grant, 30, Matisse Thybulle, 27, DeAndre Ayton, 26, Robert Williams III, 27, Duop Reith, 28. That appears to be very, very, very clear delineations of the here and now and the future.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it appears that's the way they're going with this. And we played the audio earlier of Joe Cronin talking about going forward with Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. And I think that kind of was the first time we've set that situation. Understanding that the organization has now kind of put that out there, I think we can take this step forward. I think you can say that, Anthony Simons is not necessarily a short timer, but I think you're certainly leaning closer to his time coming to a close here than, him taking over as a starting point guard for the rest of his career. Right. Jeremy Grant, we talked about it earlier in the show. Teams are calling on him, but the Trailblazers aren't giving him away.
Right.
Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
For everybody's like, Jeremy Grant has no value. Jeremy Grant has value.
Yes, he does.
That's why teams are calling on him and they want him. And that's why the Trailblazers are like, we want more because we know we have multiple teams calling on him.
Right.
Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Matisse Thybulle, he's a guy I've heard could be moved. The Dallas Mavericks offered him a contract sheet last year. He cannot be traded to them for a year from the time that he signed that offer sheet on the restricted free agency, which I believe is June 6th or 7th, if I remember right.
Or July
6th or 7th. I can't remember the exact date. I'm just going off memory. It's all blurry. DeAndre Ayton is a guy that could be had. Robert Williams is a guy that has been reportedly actively shopped. And Duop Reith, I love WAP. One of the coolest and best stories in the entire league, coming from war-torn South Sudan, immigrating to Australia, becoming a member of the Australian national team. Him and Matisse Thybulle will play together for the Australian national team here in a month. But does Duop Reith factor into the Blazers' decisions over the long term?
Right.
No.
He's a nice ancillary piece.
He's a third big man, and he's 28 years old. I'm not trying to say that I don't like him and I don't respect him, but if you're talking about holistic roster building, is he going to be here in 4 years?
I'd say probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, who among Scoot, Shaedon, Denny, Donovan is going to be here in 4 years? And I think you probably put Toumani, Jabari, Chris, Ryan, kind of in that same group. How many of those? Because that's what 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. That's 9 players.
Yeah.
How many of those 9 players are going to be here in 4 years of the young guys? The safe number is probably 3.
Okay.
Let's set the over under is probably 3.5. That's probably the over under. If you look at roster turnover around the league, most rosters turn over like you wouldn't believe.
Right.
And you just don't realize it.
Well, so Clingan's going to get, what, is it going to be a 4-year deal with that 4th year being a team option?
5th year team option.
5th year team option.
And he'll have the Blazers will essentially have 9 years of control with restricted free agency, 5 and 4.
Right.
Toumani, because he's a second-round draft pick, there's a year less on that. Same with Jabari, his contract is also non-guaranteed. Chris Murray's a first-round draft pick, so they have 9 years, 8 more years of control.
Right.
Avdija's on a 4-year deal, and then obviously Shaedon is due for his extension. He's extension eligible this year.
Okay.
He's going into year 3.
So we need to see something this year.
Yes.
We can't afford a lot of injuries.
No. And Scoot Henderson obviously is in year 2 of what will be potentially a 5-year deal.
What I think as far as your Jabari and Toumani and Banton, Rupert, maybe not so much Rupert as the previous 3. I think we need to see, and it seems like Jabari made a bit of a leap last year, but we need to see how much more they can develop this season, because even still, I guess, you had, once the injuries hit everybody, you did have Kamara and Banton, starting and playing major roles, but like on a good team, how much of a role are they going to play unless they develop considerably more? I mean, I realize we're still a few years out from Portland being a good team.
And I think that's what Joe Cronin talked about last night, was the whole, we are in the talent acquisition phase. Do we have that audio?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to that real quick.
Just we're still in such a talent acquisition mode that we're not super concerned about who's playing ahead of who or who's playing next to who. It was more for Donovan. It was obviously get a really talented guy who addresses some huge needs for us, specifically, like we said, the rim protection, the defense, the rebounding, the offensive rebounding. Part of this is we're building a competitive culture. We want these guys to come in and compete and, earn whatever minutes and roles they get. And, when you're a rebuilding team like we are and you're trying to take that next step, we need guys that are capable of coming in and winning jobs. And that's what we're looking forward to, is just being more competitive.
I mentioned this yesterday. This is the scene from Batman. Joker breaks the pool cue and says, "Whoever comes out, comes out."
Yeah.
That's what I've seen a lot of people like, how will DeAndre Ayton act about this? How will so-and-so, what will their response be? It better be, get your ass in gear.
Yeah.
We tend to forget that this is professional sports.
Yeah. Like, they're not the only guys in this situation. This happens
across the league.
Exactly. Every year. Yeah.
And Joe's right there, where we want to create an environment of competition. You better figure this out, because if not, the dude behind you is coming for your job.
Yep.
That's the reality of professional sports. Everyone wants to be like, you want guys to really, bond and come together. Sure. Yeah. But it's also a dog-eat-dog world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get your mind right, you lose your job, you lose your check. And once you bounce out of the league, you don't get back in.
Right.
The reason why Dante Exum's story is so crazy is because it never happens.
Yeah.
What happens is, once you're in the league, you get to bounce around for a little while. But once you fall out, you don't get to come back. Because go full Will Smith. There's new hotness. New hotness is always right there. Old and busted. New hotness. New hotness is always there. Old and busted, nobody wants. So Dante Exum goes overseas, fixes his jump shot, and says, bet, I'm going to come back, and I've retooled my game. I'm going to be a defensive stopper. I'm no longer going to be like point guard Dante, where I'm running offenses. I can knock down threes. I can play defense, but I could also be a secondary playmaker and give you some rim pressure. I have changed my game. I have accepted a role that I was not willing to accept, and I'm mentally, physically, emotionally, I got right. And now he was a key part of a Dallas Mavericks team that went to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Those are the exceptions,
Exactly.
not the rules. So you look at these opportunities and all these different cases popping up left, right, and center of, well, this guy's taking this guy's job, and this guy feels this way about this. Then make sure it's your job.
Yeah.
Look, and
go out there and compete your ass off.
Look, and you want a healthy level of competition.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want guys downright fighting all the time.
Right.
Because there's a difference between throwing 2 stakes in the cage
mm-hmm.
and 1 stake in the cage.
Yes.
And I think when you throw 2 stakes in the cage, you're not fighting for every last scrap to where you create hostility. And I'm maybe using like a caged animal metaphor isn't the best idea, but you understand what I'm saying here.
No, absolutely.
This is the situation where you're trying to breed healthy competition. Not because there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of emotions and there's a lot of ego in all this, and you can't just run it like Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm.
That's also not, you can't go that direction too. You do have to keep the people aspect part of this. And one thing I do want to address that we really haven't talked about with Donovan Clingan is Donovan Clingan, for all intents and purposes, a great dude. All of the evaluators, all of the scouts, everybody out there has regaled me with I know Donovan. I've worked with Donovan. I've talked to Donovan. He's a wonderful human. And the Portland Trailblazers, regardless of what you think, I believe it matters. They have made a conscious effort of bringing in good people.
Yeah. Well, I think by now a lot of people have probably seen that package they've been running on ESPN about, following his mother's death and that how that kind of refocused him.
Yeah, of course, ESPN talking about a family member dying during a draft. We do have a trade to report. Denver is trading Reggie Jackson to the Charlotte Hornets for it says 3 unprotected second-round picks, but there's a new version of this post. Denver's trading Reggie Jackson to Charlotte with 3 unprotected second-round picks. Oh, that is different.
Yes.
Okay, so it costs 3 second-round picks to get off of $5 million.
Man,
that's a spicy meatball.
Yes, it is.
There you go. Well, Reggie Jackson opted into his $5 million contract. The Nuggets said, well, we're cheap, so we're going to get you out of here. Along that same line, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has opted out and become a free agent. The Denver Nuggets dynasty that so many in Denver thought might be there might be over before it got started.
Mm-hmm. And his player option was $15.4 million.
Yeah, he's getting more than that, and it definitely sounds like it's going to be Philadelphia. We'll see how that shakes out. All right, coming up next, we'll put a little bow on this show as the Blazers might potentially be picking at 52. We don't know. That might also be out too. We'll see where things sit as they're currently about a pick and a half away, and we'll get to that more to close up today's show with Danny and Dusty today, the Fan. As we close out today's show, Bronny James has still not been drafted. I'm here for the Chaos Grenade. Trailblazers take him at 52. They could just go, well, we'll draft him and stash him in Australia. You want to take him in Australia? That's fine.
G'day, mate.
You know, have some fun with it. You don't send any of the Clutch doesn't send any of the good Clutch clients here anyways. I'm kidding. I love Jeremy. I'm talking about the top level free agents. Because Portland doesn't get them. Yesterday, last night, maybe it was this morning. I don't know. I can't remember. I said it on Twitter. I think it was today because I was talking to executives about it last night. Trying to find out the dumb math behind the Denny Avdija trade.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially I said, I broke it down as, can you basically say that Malcolm Brogdon, the 2024 14th pick and the 2029 first round pick, those were for Denny Avdija and the second round picks were for getting off the money? And everybody said, yeah, I think that's a fair enough way to encapsulate that deal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want proof of that, the Charlotte Hornets, knowing that the Denver Nuggets are number one in kind of a cap situation, and number two have a cheap owner in Stan Kroenke, are being extorted for 3 second-round picks to take on $5 million of Reggie Jackson's money. That's called being bent over the barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious. The whips and ropes and gag balls, everything's involved. Like that's a tough scene.
Bring out the gimp.
Yeah, no, that's a tough scene. Like Bruce Willis is looking at you like, you're in for it, buddy. That's like 3 second round picks to get off of $5 million.
Yeah.
Yeesh. That's like, look, second round picks aren't that valuable, but like,
right.
That's a lot of capital to be like, can you please take this $5 million? We're in hell. So,
yeah.
If the Blazers would have had like $1.2 million more in space, that could have been an opportunity for them.
Right.
Reggie Jackson in his 13th or 14th year, an opportunity to land, went to Charlotte in a rebuilding team.
Yeah.
Could have landed in Portland. I think that would have been a good use if they would have had just a wee bit more space.
Kind of an older guy mentor.
And I think that he's a guy that you don't have to play like you had to play Malcolm Brogdon when he was healthy, playing 5 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Reggie don't play. Reggie's fine.
Yeah.
Also, be nice to have somebody on the team named Reggie. Reggie's just a fun name to say. Reggie, what up, Reg? You know what I mean? Reggie's a great name. Shout out Reggie with the Rip City remix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the math behind that in general when you're talking about those kind of transactions. And I think that's an important thing to kind of look at when you see how trades are done. The initial sticker shock of like